why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and say what you do and talk about Sammy Rabbit a little bit and kind of the goals, and then we'll get going from there.
Well, thanks, Ryan. Thanks for having me. Yeah, my name is Sam X. Rennick, and I'm the driving force and the mind behind Sammy the Rabbit. And we're all about early age, teen, and family financial literacy. That's our focus, and it has been for 20 years. Thinking a little bit about how we got connected, one of the things that stands out still to this day in my mind, and this might have been what maybe caught my attention, is I remember seeing one of your posts talking about wanting to make and being in the process of making one post every day for 365 days.
Yeah.
And I thought, let me see what this is all about and how this person is going about this. I'm a big, as you know, LinkedIn champion, enthusiast, advocate, cheerleader, however you want to describe it. So I like to see how other people are using it to network specifically more than job search for me. And I found, it's just been a great tool to meet substantive, value-centric, purpose-filled people like yourself. So thank you so much, Ryan, for having me here today.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. I love the energy. I feel like I can feel it through the messages and through the emails and everything. And I was happy that when you jumped on the video, it was exactly the same. I feel like you don't just add those exclamation points, you really mean them. So I appreciate having you here. And one of the things that I do, 100% believe in, especially is family financial literacy and teaching kids at a young age, especially me having a daughter now who's going to be 2 in September. Obviously don't expect her to understand something like compound interest, but I do already think about getting her into, obviously, as quick as she can, understanding money and teaching her the things that I think school doesn't give her. So that's always on my mind. And one of my first questions would be, what age do you think is ready to start teaching, and what would you teach at that age?
Hey, well, let's start with your daughter at age 2 and see what we can do.
Yeah.
Even with this idea of compound interest, I'm already thinking that's just how my mind kind of works. And so I'm thinking, with the 2-year-old, and for any young child, and this could be even true for adults, I think language is so important that you want to begin by getting kids familiar with just the language of money. And so, with the 2-year-old, you might do something exaggerated like, we plant seeds and they grow and grow and grow.
Right.
Okay,
I like
something
that,
like that. And when something grows and grows and grows, it multiplies, it compounds. One of the techniques I like to use is to share the words. Don't be afraid to share big words, small words, important words, and then use 2 or 3 synonyms. And then with young kids, be very animated, use hand signals, Sammy sign language, if you will, and then just try and, as you pointed out, share an enthusiasm about whatever it is. Don't worry so much if they get it or not. Now, two of the operating assumptions I would share with you and I share with everyone is, first, assume kids are learning machines and they're absorbing everything, okay, through visuals, through their eyes and through their ears, and maybe they're forming little associations, habits, neural networks, however you want to describe it. What they may not be able to do is articulate what their understanding is. That's where we need to trust in the system and the science that tells us that they're making these associations, which is why it's so important to get in there before age 7. There's some studies that say adult money habits are set by age 7. And when you talk to a lot of young kids, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you begin to realize that something is forming there. They start asking for money. They start asking for Chuck E. Cheese. They start asking for whatever it is. That's a signal that they have some preliminary beginning thinking and maybe not even thinking, but feelings about money. And I think as a parent, you hit on something earlier. I don't remember how you put it exactly, but it's part of the reason why I'm so passionate and enthusiastic about teaching young kids about money, because that's something my dad did with us when we were, it seems like from birth, very young. And what was, maybe ironic or foresighted on his part was we basically grew up, and I grew up here in Los Angeles, about a stone's throw, a home run toss from Dodger Stadium.
Wow.
And anyways, we were hovering. We had 7 people in one house, small house, under 1,000 square feet, one bathroom. I think there was like 1.5 bedrooms. And, as a kid, you don't mind all that stuff so much. But we were hovering around the poverty line. Now, we never wanted for a place to sleep or anything to eat, but I wore my brother's hand-me-downs and things of that nature, and we didn't have any discretionary income. But what he foresaw is that this situation was not permanent, especially for us being young kids. So one of the things he was drumming almost as if he was a Twitter feed into our minds was, Sam, he would say, you can have anything you want if you're willing to work for it and you get an education. And so, that voice, he's been gone for 20 years. It still plays, in my mind, but I don't know if that started at 4 or 5 or when it was, but he had maybe 10 or 20 messages, Ryan, and he wasn't afraid to wear them out.
Yeah, I gotcha. I understand that. Every dad's job is to only pick like 10 things and to say them over and over. I think what you realize over time is that they're not going to listen to probably more than that. So you keep it simple. You pick your topics, and then you move on from there. So I get that. You know what?
There's a couple of interesting things. I think, you do as a parent or a teacher, you want to pick, but particularly as a parent, you want to identify what you're saying 4, 8, 12 messages on money. But for little kids, it might be 4. I think the 4 messages you want to have one about saving, one about smart spending, one about earning, and one about giving. That's where I would begin. That's the foundation. And these messages can be very simple. We, the Starks, we're savers. That's what we do. We save.
Yeah.
Saving is fun. Saving is a great habit. What is the message you want to articulate? Then don't be afraid to wear it out, but also figure out different ways to deliver it. So like if you look at Sammy the Rabbit, we have storybooks, we have songs, we have activities, and almost all of them are going to reinforce our number one. I think this is the most important thing that a parent can teach a child, and that is to make a habit of saving. So Sammy's main message on saving is a great habit. You'll find it in his storybooks, you'll find it in his songs, you'll find it in activities. We also recommend doing arts and crafts, so you'll find it there as well. So you want to mix it up, try and keep it as fresh as you can, but the mother of all skill is repetition. So you can't be afraid to repeat these messages. Now, I think it's, in addition to that, it's extra important in the environment we live in. All right. The environment we live in is filled with noise. And a big part of that noise comes from advertisers, or what I like to call the system. Right. And probably 99.9% of those messages are about consuming, over consuming, immediate consuming with money you don't have.
Yeah, and of course, buy our stuff. Yeah.
Buy our stuff, buy more stuff than you need, supersize it, swipe it, right. Borrow, pay interest, be enslaved, all these things. And, when I talk to 4-year-olds, a lot of them, if I ask them, what's money for? Or do you like money? What would you use it if I gave you some? It's like, Chuck E. Cheese. Right, they know that at 4 years old. But every once in a while, this is interesting, and it's kind of what fuels my fire as well. I'll run across a 4-year-old who will say, money is for buying groceries at the store or something like that. And like, right. This kid's 4 years old. Where did he get? Yeah. Where did he get? Where did they get that idea? And it tells you that their minds are receptive. And if you look at it like soil, it's ripe for growth. So let's get those messages in there before, say, they get to middle school when they're going to get shaken up,
Right.
and
No,
they're
for
going to
sure.
get
Yeah.
they're going to get
Right.
tested in middle school and high school. That's just human nature. But if you have that foundation in there, they have a better chance. Nothing's 100%, but they have a better chance of weathering that, coming out on the right end of it, and then being on that path towards financial freedom, towards financial security, towards financial stability, all the basics that make for a better life.
Yeah, and it sounds like you said, to keep it simple and just include them in everything. Something I've been trying to do, even in little activities, is you realize how many learning opportunities there are for children when you give them a chance to do it with you. And maybe things take a little longer, but it gives them a real chance to be involved. And something like going to the store and pulling out the credit card and handing it to me and giving them back so they can put it in the wallet. Those are little things that maybe it seems like a game. It's just hold this, but they're living the real life and learning those things early.
Yeah, they want to be like mommy, like daddy, like
Mm.
uncle and auntie and big people. And you actually just shared something I had not thought of, but even putting a debit card or a credit card in a wallet, that's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so part of what that does is it builds esteem, it builds financial competency. And so these little small things, it doesn't have to be, you just keep building. That's also part of education. It's layering, and you just keep building and building. And parents are in the best position to make the determinations about how much. You don't have to do a lot, but you do need to be consistent. So if they're not ready maybe to say make the payment or swipe the card or get the change, put the card in the wallet, or put the money in the wallet, or when you get home, sort the money out. Things like that can be very simple things. Another suggestion I would always make is try to bring a joy to it. I know some people, when they think of saving, they think, it's a sacrifice, it's painful, or something like that. Boy, make sure that make sure two things. One, your child has some kind of a saving device. I like jars, things of that nature that are transparent. And so create the saving deposit dance.
Mm-hmm.
Celebrate
Yeah.
celebrate penny deposits. If you want, match them. Everybody likes incentives, but it can be as simple as pennies. But you bring a joy to this. We're on the road to riches. Kids
Mm-hmm.
like riches. I mean, it's a fun concept for kids. But shake that bank. Make the
Right. Right.
noises.
Right. Right.
Have that kind of bring that kind of joy, so that they start having those feelings, about it. The second thing I was going to recommend is also have a family savings jar. I think that's important. That's something we had. We'd have these big old bottles and sometimes water jugs or whatever. And, my dad had his saving pennies in there. He'd be putting pennies. And then we'd have these family discussions. Oh, what are we going to do with the money when the bottle's full?
Yeah.
So and then the first thing we would always do is we would pour it out, onto the rug, and we would count it. So it became a tradition, and it was something we could do together. And that's, how you start forming bonds and cementing values and things of that nature. And he turned all these things into an experience, into a game. At least that part of it. Now, I will say, I think he could have used a few lessons in terms of some of his other teaching techniques, because you hit the nail. He was more of like sit and listen. And I think what you described, there might be a little bit of that, but learn by doing.
Right.
I think that might be a lot more effective. In fact, for me, it is, and I prefer it.
Yeah, I agree. And I also was going to say, I even go as far to say, especially for my financial brain, when I get into assets and estate planning, I think it's crucial to open yourselves up. Now, maybe you don't have to be like, tell your 4-year-old what a will is and what happens when you die or something like that. But I believe in opening up to your kids, and even if you don't give them dollar figures, letting them understand accounts and investments and 401ks and why you're doing it and things like that, so they can start it well. Because I think everybody can agree that the thing that we all have a finite amount of is time, and the earlier you start, the easier it is to end up in a better place. So I think including the family discussion and really being open is the key to allowing your children to take on the lessons that you can teach them, and the lessons you've learned throughout the years.
Yeah, absolutely. Be what I would describe it as appropriately open. You and your partner, if you have a partner, I think you do because you told me that.
Yeah.
You're the parents are the pilots, and so you determine how fast or slow to go and what's appropriate. But I think the concept is right in terms of education is empowering. That's where it begins. Then execution is the second piece of it, acting on that knowledge. But first you have to have that awareness. So you're in the best seat in the house. You're the pilot to determine exactly what's appropriate for your kids. Now at say 3, 4, 5, 10, whatever, well, 10 might be a little bit different. Let's just say between 3 and 8. I mean, I think saving, smart spending. I always, when I talk about spending, I always like to use some kind of an adjective like wise, smart, savvy, not just spending, because there's just so many messages out there about spending. You need to bring more intention to it than that. And then on giving. Now with saving and maybe spending, there are some statements or things of that nature, so you can bring that into it. But I do think you need to be prudent. Your child, and how much to share with them. So you may not want to share, oh, we're rich, we have $1 million in our savings account.
Right.
But you might circle the deposits. Oh, this is a 500 deposit. Deposit means we're putting money in. When we put money in, our stash, our cash, our pile grows. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Something like that. And of course, as they get 5, 6, 7, 8, you might share a little bit more. I heard a wonderful story from one of the founders of Acorns. Are you familiar at all with the Acorns?
Yeah, it takes the change, or is that the right thing, and puts it into an account?
Yes, they have that and do more than that. And in fact, they help people invest with respect to small dollar amounts. You buy fractional shares, all this stuff. What's a real young person was the founder of that company. And so he was talking, his dad, fortunate for him, was an investment banker when he was like 9 or 10, and his dad opened up an investment account for him, and with just a little bit of money, but it was mainly to start getting him familiar with accounts, how they work. And so he was sharing, like at 9 or 10 years old, he couldn't wait for the bell to ring to go home and check the stock prices and things of that nature. And I was thinking, I get it. I think that would be exciting. And so when you think about having that exposure, and then you fast forward maybe 10 years, he's in high school or college, and he happens to be a very purpose-oriented person. He's now thinking about this experience. He's around his peers, and he's discovering they haven't had this type of an experience. And this is even the people, say, who are taking finance and economics courses. And one of the barriers is, at that time, this is maybe 10 years ago, and this well, maybe you needed $500 or $1,000 or $2,000 to open up some kind of a brokerage account. I mean, it's a whole different ball game now. But he was like, we need to change that. We need to democratize investing. Let's make it even easier. And that's part of what inspired him to go to start that company and help design and develop that technology. And one of the other thing that he shared that I thought, I'd be interested in getting your opinion on this. To me, it made a lot of sense. But he said when he was in class and first conceiving this idea, he was saying, this is in the university level, that he thought it was exponentially better to actually have a small account than, say, play some kind of a game, maybe a stock market game? That'd just be a much more powerful learning experience if you were actually doing something for real, even if it was just a small amount. Any thoughts on that?
I agree because I think if you give somebody $10,000, the first thing they think about is probably how can I make it 20 rather than if you're piecing off little pieces of change. I think you're understanding the concept of brick by brick and grabbing little bits at a time and the concept of a little bit can accumulate a lot when you watch that happen. And I think that's a good way to develop a habit first. I would think that would be smarter in the same sense that when you have kids, I don't think you should give them a whole bunch of allowance. They start with change and they start with little things. And so they learn how to save up so they don't have too much to buy things right away. So I do agree.
You got me onto another interesting point. I'd love to hear it. And it has to do with this whole idea of like, learn to manage a penny before a nickel, and then a nickel before a dime, and a dime before a dollar. And if you're competent with the little things, you're probably going to be competent with the larger amounts. But the question I wanted to ask you really is your thoughts on the difference between a person's ability to earn money and manage it.
Yeah, I love that idea in terms of managing money and living within your means. And why I always say that and learning those principles is because you can always make more money, but just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean you're not going to spend it all. And I think the easiest way you can explain that is by showing professional athletes and millionaires who constantly run out of money because they're going to spend what they have rather than understanding the concept of financial competency or literacy. I really like financial competency, by the way. I haven't heard that very often, but I like it almost better than literacy for some reason. It just feels better. But another thing is somebody winning the lottery. A lot of people spend it all, and that's because, well, like handing somebody money doesn't mean you're handing them the ability to manage money.
Okay, this is so interesting to me. I mean, it's one of the reasons why Sammy the Rabbit is hyper focused and stresses the heck out of habit formation. Because what a person is going to do with $1 million, say they're earning 40,000, what they're going to do with $1 million is the same thing and more of it that they were doing with 40,000. So if they're managing 40,000, well, there's a good chance, not 100%, they're going to manage the 1 million well. But giving a person more responsibility, more management duty, if they're not already doing a good job, why would you expect them to do a better job with more resources? You wouldn't give an employee who is not doing a good job more responsibility. You'd say, exactly, you need more. You need more education. You need more skill building. And so if you're earning 100,000 and you're spending 150, and now we give you $250,000, you're probably going to be spending 500,000. That's the other ironic part is the more income you earn, the more trouble you can get into.
And it sounds like we're in agreement on most things and understanding the importance of teaching at a fundamental level, because they're the ones who are going to have to make decisions on their own eventually. So we want to give them good habits to carry out with them. So
absolutely, we want to set our kids up for success. That's the key, and that doesn't mean you have to be wealthy. But I think what it does mean, and we see this all the time, is you need the competency, the skills, the knowledge. It starts with the knowledge, which is why the education is so important. But then it moves into the execution phase. We need to set them up so that they can put themselves on the path to more financial security, financial stability, and financial opportunities, so that they can, eventually, if they want, live where they want to live, be clothed the way they want to be clothed, and all these things. And it's almost like a game. There are levels. So get at the level that you're comfortable. And that includes giving as well. The better you manage and steward your money, the better positioned you're going to be able to give. So you'll be better prepared for emergencies and unexpected things that happen to all of us. You'll be better prepared for opportunities. As Sammy the Rabbit says, you'll be better prepared to get what you want and what you need when you want and need it, and you're better prepared to give and help others as well. So there's a lot of benefits, and what I think a lot of people, they may underestimate or not maybe fully understand, is that just these basics, they're going to take you a long ways. They're not everything. I mean, once you get that long ways and you're doing that, then maybe you might want to get into more sophisticated planning. You know, you mentioned estate planning and things of that nature, tax deferment, tax reductions. But even in those areas, there's some basic things you can do, and you just put the building blocks in place. But it all starts, you know, kids are a lot smarter, I think, than many of us give them credit for. And they're like these little learning machines. It all starts visual and audio. And, you know, we just start slowly feeding them simple ideas, simple but profound. Even Warren Buffett says, you know, save before you spend. I mean, so that tells you it's a profound idea. Plus, that idea is in, let's say, a million zillion books, right?
Right, at least, yeah.
Yeah, at least, exactly. So, you know, a lot of these recipes, they've been figured out. And so it's easy to confirm that these are good ideas. And so get on the same page, the parents of the kid, figure out your own financial philosophy and values, and then break it down into simple language, start communicating it, doing it in a variety of ways, and then start layering. And it doesn't have to be a big thing. You know, 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes here, there. You know, something you mentioned earlier is the grocery store. Man, the grocery store is like maybe the greatest place to deliver financial literacy lessons. I mean, you can start at home with lists and coupons, and you know that's planning. And what's our goal? You know, our goal is not to spend more than $20 or $40. Or our goal is we're going to try and find this product that we love on sale, or maybe we're going to wait till it's on sale. I mean, there's a lot of that. Then you can go around and do some comparing and contrasting. When you think about what thinking is, and critical thinking in particular, part of what it is comparing and contrasting items. You know, making lists helps us to get organized. And then it also helps us to develop priorities. Sure, we want 10 things, but maybe we have money for 3 things. What are the 3 things we need or we want, or whatever the, you know, your way of prioritizing? And so then when you get there, you can do that. If there's time, maybe the kids can make the payment or get the receipt, bring it back, count the check, put the card in the wallet. So I love grocery stores in terms of delivering real life financial literacy education.
Yeah, and what I love about what you're saying and how you deliver your message is the 2 things that I catch on to is simplicity and adjectives. And making it a positive experience. But I really like the adjectives attached to words that kind of create that positivity and create that message, such as smart spending. Things like that, I think, are crucial. And I think that's the best place to start. So I guess I would ask you if there was one, you know, I guess piece of final advice or one solid piece of advice that you would give to every child, or that you always say to your speeches, or maybe to your parents to hand down to those kids, what would that one piece of advice be?
That one piece comes in our signature song. I'm going to share the lyrics with you, Ryan. And the name of the song is Get in the Habit. And the chorus goes like this: get in the habit. And this is our sign for a habit. A habit is a pattern, a routine that we do again, and again. So get in the habit, like Sammy Rabbit, saving money all the time. Ryan, you can do it. Now get to it. From every dollar, save a dime. My strong advice is get your kids in the habit of saving. Start with pennies, start with nickels, start with dimes. Have them do the Ryan Stark exercise. See if you can save a penny every day for 365 days. Okay?
Love that.
Or maybe it's 3 days, or maybe it's 36 days. Yeah. The point is not, you're going to see your pile grow. Okay? Yeah. So that's a concept you can talk about. It isn't rocket science. We put it in, we leave it there, it grows. what it's mainly about is habit formation. You want to get them in the habit of saving. And, it's a lot like exercise or reading, but let's just use exercise. Let's say lifting weights or walking. You start with the penny, you do that for a week. Pretty soon you walk a quarter of a mile the first day. By the end of the first week, you're like, I think I could do a half a mile. I think I can do a mile. You start with 5 pounds, pretty soon you work your way up to 10 pounds. It's just a natural evolution. But what you're doing is you're cementing, you're forming that habit, that way of thinking, that mental mindset. Saving, the habit of saving has a lot of benefits besides the accumulation of wealth and the accumulation of security and protection, if you will. What it teaches kids, and this may be even more valuable than that, is they learn how to delay gratification. Okay, that's a universal transferable skill that you could use it in any area. And it's going to help you build a lot of success. It instills discipline and confidence. It actually provides you a space to think about your spending. It teaches goal setting and planning. So it has all these benefits. So that's my number one piece of advice. Get your kids in the habit of saving. Have them have their own savings jar, piggy bank, whatever you like, envelopes in their room, and then have a family one to reinforce it. Have those family meetings. Make sure that's the first item on your agenda. The Starks, we're savers. This is another exercise you can do with the 3 or 4-year-old when they're beginning to write. We have a book called Sammy's Saving Alphabet, and we put short sentences like that. The Starks, we're savers, and then we'll outline the words so kids can trace them so they can learn the alphabet, or we make other graphics of the words so that they can color them in. So they're learning to write, but they're also, you're laying the seeds and the foundation for the simple, short, but powerful financial messages. Saving is a great habit, says Sammy Rabbit at SammyRabbit.com, Ryan.
Love it.
Had to get that in there.
Of course. No, I really like the core message. I really like how it's displayed, and I think it's smart, and it sounds like it's a real passion project that you do to push through, that you really care, which is important, because I think everything matters when there's good intent involved.
Thank you. I'm grateful that you recognize and appreciate that. Not everyone does, but you sound like a fantastic parent, and so working with your kids is an investment. There's a lot of parallels, and so you're going to largely, it's not an exact science, but you're largely going to get out of it what you put into it. It isn't rocket science.
Right.
I just want to say thank you again one more time. I like you. I really enjoy talking about these issues with people who care about them and are passionate about it, and it refuels my fire. So thank you so much, Ryan.
Same, of course. And like I said, I appreciate the energy you deliver. It makes same way. I feel the same way of it bouncing back and forth, of somebody that cares about that and thinks about those principles, and even open my mind up to a few things. I think about what I think about finance and what I understand. And when you say, the concept of saving really even goes back to delaying gratification. That's a huge point that brought up, like a light bulb that went off in my head of how important that is. And even the values you teach about money go far beyond money. And I always say that of course, money is just a tool. It goes well beyond money. So I think that's the key too, is to not make it all about that, but to figure out how to give them, those core beliefs to handle something like money.
Exactly. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Money is a tool. That's what it is, but it's an important tool. We need to soberly recognize that and just take control of the education process. And so, yes, amen.
Yeah. Again, I appreciate having you here. Thanks so much for doing it. And I'm sure we'll talk again. I'm definitely going to keep looking at your content on LinkedIn. You share a lot of great articles about other advisors. That's another thing I thought was cool. And you get to hear a bunch of different stories about how people started, what they think. And you get two things. One, you get a consistent message from a bunch of professionals who all believe in living within your means and how to save and spending. So like you said, it creates those pillars of what you understand of how to use money. And the second thing is you get a cool, interesting story of how somebody started, and everybody has a little bit of different story. So that's a nice thing to hear. And I really like how you do those interviews and give people a chance to kind of tell their story. So that's cool too. I wanted to say thanks for doing that. And, thanks for being here, and thanks for everything.
All right, Ryan, you have a Sammy-rific day.
Absolutely. I will.